Chapter, The Parrot Who Wouldn't Talk, by Ruskin Bond. The Parrot Who Wouldn't Talk by Ruskin Bond is a very interesting and humorous animal story. The story is about a pet parrot. The parrot is owned by the speaker's aunt, Ruby. The story dates back to colonial days when it was very common and fashionable to keep caged birds in-house for chatting. The speaker, Ruskin Bond, is just 10 years old then, staying with his grandparents in Dehradun. The story goes like this. One day his Aunt Ruby buys a parrot from a bird seller. His grandparents are unhappy about it. But no one stood against her wish as Aunt Ruby is strong in her decisions. The parrot is new to the place and upset, and keeps quiet. Aunt Ruby tries all her methods to make the parrot talk, but it does not talk. One day the parrot gets annoyed with Aunt Ruby, and knocks the spectacles off her nose. Aunt Ruby gets upset and makes faces to the parrot. She repeatedly says to the parrot that, "You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." At this point, the responsibility to feed the parrot falls on the young Bond. He offers him green chilies and ripe tomatoes. They develop a good rapport, and one day, he keeps the cage open, and the parrot flies away. Aunt Ruby gets very sad and upset on this. But to everyone's surprise, the parrot comes back and sits on the railing of the veranda. Seeing him back, Aunt cries aloud and says that he must have missed me, and hence it has come back. But, seeing Aunt Ruby, it flies away quickly and perches on a rose bush in the garden. And from there, he calls out, "You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." From then onwards the parrot often comes to the garden, and whenever he sees Aunt Ruby, it teases her in her familiar voice. "You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." Let us read and understand the story. The Parrot Who Wouldn't Talk, by Ruskin Bond. When I was growing up in Missouri, almost all our neighbors kept a pet parrot or parakeet. Sometimes, these birds would learn to talk. They would say things like, "Study, child, study," or, "Don't be greedy, don't be greedy." These words and phrases were, of course, learned after some member of the household had repeated them many times in front of the bird. But our parrot refused to talk. Aunt Ruby had bought it from a bird catcher who sold caged birds. Though grandmother and grandfather were not happy about keeping caged birds as pets, Aunt Ruby insisted on keeping the parrot and teaching it to talk. But the bird immediately disliked my aunt. "Kiss, kiss," Aunt Ruby would coo, putting her face close to the bars of the cage. But the parrot would back away, its little eyes getting even smaller with anger. Once, it suddenly dived forward and knocked Aunt Ruby's spectacles off her nose. After that, Aunt Ruby stopped showing her love for the parrot. She became unfriendly towards the poor bird. She made faces at it and called out, "You're no beauty, can't sing, can't dance," and other nasty comments. It became my job to feed the parrot. It looked quite happy to receive the green chilies and ripe tomatoes from my hands. When it was the mango season, I got to eat a couple of mangoes while feeding the parrot. One afternoon, while everyone was enjoying a short nap, I gave the parrot its lunch and then purposely left the cage door open. Seconds later, the bird was flying freely into the mango orchard. Grandfather came onto the veranda and remarked, "I see your aunt's parrot has escaped." The door was quite loose, I said with a shrug. "Well, I don't think we'll see it again." Aunt Ruby was upset at first. We promised to buy her a bowl of goldfish. The parrot probably missed its green chilies. A few days later, I found it sitting on the veranda railing, looking hopefully at me with its head cocked to one side. I gave the parrot half of my mango. While the bird was enjoying the mango, Aunt Ruby called out, "Look! There's my parrot. It must have missed me." With a loud squawk, the parrot flew out of her reach, perched on the nearest rose bush, glared at Aunt Ruby and screamed in my aunt's familiar tones, "You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." Aunt Ruby went ruby red and dashed indoors. But that wasn't the end of it. The parrot became a regular visitor. Whenever it saw Aunt Ruby, it would call out, "You're no beauty, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." The parrot had learnt to talk after all. Hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for watching. Please continue with the comprehension part.